Moira Miller, and I'm here today with Shrewsbury resident Lyn Lincourt.
Hi.
And we are going to talk today a little bit about Lyn, and she's a very interesting lady, and we'll talk a little bit about her and her background. But primary focus, the reason that I became interested is because Lyn has written this great book called Mansions of Magnates, America in the Mad 20th Century. But its focus is here in Shrewsbury on the great mansions that were built at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And I find it for people who are interested in history. This goes beyond just you talking about buildings, but you have great stories in here about the people, which I really enjoyed.
They fascinating?
They're fascinating, fascinating. There's some family history, so if you like genealogy, there's some of that. So I think anyone who is interested not only just in local history, but history in general, and this period in time, which was the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, and transitioning from that sort of agricultural economy to manufacturing. It was a fascinating time, and Shrewsbury was the center of that.
It was key.
Yep.
Can you believe that this little landlocked place was actually an international city?
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Worcester.
It was unbelievable.
Yep.
There was everybody here.
Yeah, the city of Worcester was, yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable.
People probably find that hard to believe. It's a good city today, but they probably find it hard to understand the scope of what it was like then.
The thing is, how can you? But
Yeah.
you've got to put yourself in an era where everything was new.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything was growth. Everything was happening. Suddenly, when it started happening, it's happening very fast.
Yep, right.
And it was so, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And actually, I ended up by starting with somebody who was born in 1829.
Isn't that amazing?
Who was the first person who actually made, as far as I can determine, at least from in the New England area, who was able to, was making a pair of shoes in 5 minutes. Men's
Really?
work. Yeah.
And then he took that and
This guy was a
made that
natural
into-
inventor.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, he was a farm boy from Marlborough in Massachusetts.
Yep.
And he,
And I'm
like
gonna look
all
him up.
farm boys, he helped make shoes in the summertime, in the winter time for the family.
I think that was Mr. Bigelow.
Yeah,
right? Horace,
Bigelow.
Horace Bigelow.
Harold
yes.
was fantastic, and he was a fantastic guy. He was a giant of a man in the sense, I don't know how big he was physically, but he was a giant of a man in every other way.
Yeah.
He was just, imagine this little kid, maybe 10 years old, first helping to make shoes, and he decides to make a little gadget, make it easier to attach the heel to the toe, the sole rather. Well, it worked, and he began making other gadgets, and he was able, by the time he was 20, he had
incredible, right?
he had made shoes in a factory.
Yeah.
But he had made something like 10 different variations
Imagine
of
that,
his
yeah.
little gadgets.
And he was in the right place in the right time.
Right person, right time,
inventive, but-
and he never bothered
Yep.
to patent it.
Right. Oh. he didn't.
Until 1870.
Interesting.
So anybody could do it.
could do it. Yep.
So everybody who's done it, who started making shoes, well, it was free.
And he's an example of his business. He lived, and his business was in Worcester.
He came to Worcester in the 1850s.
Yeah, and all these mansions that you mentioned in the book,
Are in
the
Worcester.
owners, for the most part, lived and worked in Worcester, some in Boston, but most of them there. But they built their summer homes in Shrewsbury, which I think people would find fascinating. So people who don't know that history, and you know Shrewsbury today, to think of this as a place where these, at the time, I'm sure, millionaire or more
They weren't as
entrepreneurial.
sophisticated as Newport.
Yes. You know what I find funny too? They only lived in Worcester, but they would come to their summer homes in Shrewsbury.
Well, right, but you
right?
cross over here,
Yeah.
you've got this wonderful
It was
area.
all agriculture and land.
Yeah, you realize the hills,
Yeah.
the mountains, the water. It's just a fantastic place.
And-
Now, I didn't even know Shrewsbury existed in Massachusetts. I was born in
You
Providence.
grew up in Providence, yeah?
I grew up in Providence. I moved to New York City when I was 20-ish. Worked there until about roughly 15 years. In the first part of it, I was trying to become an actress. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a female actress who is also a comedian and a dancer and a singer. Ta-da!
Not too much to ask.
Trouble. I wasn't satisfied with just one thing. I was going to do this and this and this and this and this, which was part of the problem.
Yeah.
I wasn't focused.
Right.
And I did a lot of work in Providence, Rhode Island. I was interested in theater from the time I was a little kid. I was a little ashamed of it because I didn't think it was very respectable, but I loved it. It was so exciting. Well, I first of all, it was when I played Mrs. Santa Claus in school.
Oh, what a great role. Perfect role.
Honey, when I played Mrs. Santa Claus, she was phenomenal.
That's the top, right? Yes. The best role.
Can you imagine studying with Mrs. Santa Claus? So I did a lot of stuff with this a group that started probably about that time. He had been an actress in New York City, had married a lawyer who lived in Providence, Rhode Island, and who happened to be very successful. She had a theater in her home. We didn't rehearse there. We just did once in a while. She rented an old barn on Benefit Street, and that's the area entering into the east side where Brown University is.
Oh, yes.
And this was unbelievable. Right on Benefit Street is the start of the general entrance. And this was an old barn, and I mean an old barn. We had to climb up these real old steps, and we were wearing, our first costumes were very elaborate. We were doing a Greek play in the period of the 19th century. Can you picture us in these big dresses? And we're doing emoting.
Now, did your theater work, the historical theater work, did that trigger your interest in history? I mean, because you have a
Right. Well, I was interested in history when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Because to me, history was so exciting. And I was reading from the time I was very tiny. I mean, I don't remember learning to read. And I was a sickly child, and my mother's only child, after 4 others. I came along, wasn't particularly wanted. I was unexpected. My mother was in her mid-40s. My daddy was in his late 40s. And I had a sister who was approaching 20.
Yeah.
Another 17, another 15, and the one and only boy was 11 or 12, something like that.
Wow.
And none of them wanted me. And my mother thought I was a little tumor. So that's how much she...
Right.
She didn't know.
She wasn't expecting.
No, she wasn't expecting. And she saw she had a tumor. And the doctor says, no, you don't have a tumor. Something is growing in my stomach, doctor. Yes, it's a baby. Well, that's impossible. Well, obviously not. You are pregnant.
Oh, that's a great story. That's great. So you read a lot because you were...
Yeah, I was sickly,
Yep.
and I was the only one at home. I didn't have a lot of little playmates.
What sparked your interest in writing?
Oh,
You've got so many interesting
I
backgrounds.
have been writing all my life. I'm trying to straighten out my writing. I've got stuff up the kazoo. I write about everything.
Yeah.
And I find these folders that I've forgotten for years, but I carry them
Really?
always with me. And I'm opening them and thinking, oh my goodness, did I write that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I wrote that. And then when I was in Fordham, they were going to I was going to take a couple of courses I really didn't like. So I said to the professor, would it be okay? I work for this particular, in this organization where I met this lady who, these people who have worked with the woman, Esther Peterson. She was the woman who started this, the housewives get involved in food and so forth, so on. Have a voice. She worked for the Labor Department. They were paying her salary, but she was doing that work.
And what period of time would that be?
That would have been, I think, I seem to think that was, see, I've been around for a long time.
Yeah, but I'm thinking maybe that was it
that was,
post World War
I think it was
II?
Johnson. I think it was Johnson.
Yeah. Oh, so it was the 60s. Yes.
Yeah, it was the
yes,
60s.
yes.
Johnson.
Yep.
And I was in Washington, D.C., where I had never intended to be, because my sisters had gone to Washington when I was 7 years old. I had 2 of them. And naturally, they thought I would follow them in their footsteps. Not your word. I'm not going to work for the government. Forget it. You know, typical.
Yep.
So one day I'm in New York City, as I say, and I've been making the rounds, and I've been working many. Oh God, I never had a problem getting a job because I could do just about anything. I wasn't particularly great at everything, but I could do almost anything. And so I had jobs, part-time jobs. I was a temp, a Kelly girl it was
Yeah,
called.
that's a yeah.
Yeah.
Great way to get jobs.
And so somebody asked me one time how many jobs I've had, and I said, dozens.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe not long term.
Temp's great. I temped for a long time. It was a way to get into a company and
That's
see
right.
what's
And
available
actually,
and
I
get a
got
full-time
one of
job.
my favorite jobs was when I was working in public relations.
Mm-hmm.
That because I was doing it myself. I'm better when I work by myself. I'm not good when somebody's over my shoulder. I don't like that. But I can work with other people. But
You like to be your own boss.
yeah.
Yeah. So how did you, again, letting folks know, I'm going to give a minute just to let them know in the book, for people who don't know about the mansions of Shrewsbury, we talked about the Bigelow, which was located on Lake Quinsigamon. People have to know that there was no shopping plaza there. These were great tracts of land that these people
Hundreds of acres.
owned.
It's been
Hundreds.
agricultural.
Yep. And the Bigelow mansion, for example, that's part of that property now is White City, the shopping plaza. But
That's
didn't
right.
he start White City, the amusement park? I think did he develop that or somebody on that?
Yeah.
Yes, he
very
was
much
responsible
The
for
thing
that,
is,
yeah.
he was a tremendous manufacturer.
Yeah.
You know, he'd done it since he was a kid.
Since he was, yep.
By the time he was 20, he was in New York City. And one period of time, he was, something I read said that he was supervising 1,000 workers.
Wow.
Including
in those days.
The shops that were built in prisons.
Oh.
And he
Yes.
was
Oh, I did read that. So but he did that to bring work and give jobs. He was very
Well,
very
the company,
philanthropic and-
some of they wanted to get money for the people
Yeah.
in prison.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
needed the money.
Yep. Yep.
So, okay, fine. He was
Yeah.
in charge of it.
Yeah, and I don't know if people know that White City, the reason it's named White City is because it was lit up. Electricity
yes.
was brand new.
Oh,
and
but
it
you
would
see,
glow.
there was a White City back in the 1870s,
in
I think it was,
Chicago.
in Chicago.
Yes. Yep.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
And the White City, just imagine everything white, but also imagine lights.
Yes. Right. Where everything else is so
And
dark.
Mamma
because-
Mia,
yeah.
he made a,
It
and
must
he
have
was
been.
he was interesting. He was exciting. He had horses jumping down into water.
yeah.
I mean, he was a showman.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, he was
What a
anything.
Fascinating man.
He was the most fantastic guy.
Yeah.
And it was, as a matter of fact, he was in his 80s when he was still racing with the firemen.
Yeah.
And every time they had races.
Really.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I adored him. I would love to have met him.
Yeah.
And he gets wonderful things. He decided that he would bring in kids and give them. Now, the parents couldn't be there, but he had a lot of the police and so forth and other people who were guiding them, and he would bring in tons of ice cream and all sorts
Yeah.
of
For the kids,
sandwiches.
for the
kids
poor
in
children in
Worcester.
Worcester. Right. Is that amazing? Yeah. Nice, yeah.
They were fantastic.
Yep, yep. So you can see, if you watch it, this is what is so great about this book. So again, it's not just about the buildings, but you have all these stories
it's
in here
mostly
about
people.
the people. So
I'm
you
a people
really learn
person.
about the people.
I love people.
And it's
Yeah.
great. Another one is, so the Hobbs Estate on Grafton Street. So we're talking about Grafton Street south of Route 9, which is now where the Flynns live, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct?
The Flynns
So
do.
so again, huge tracts of land, and there's a lot of housing developments and things there.
And that's a
People may not-
fascinating one because
Yep.
that land was actually purchased back in the 1700s.
Oh, is that the one where they bought it from a Native American? Is
That's
that
what the one where a
Yes.
variety of men,
Yes.
and, several of them, and it was
Yes.
a fascinating property.
Yeah.
And it was actually originally bought from these half a dozen men,
Yeah.
bought property from this Indian
Yeah.
who owned the land. And so they came from scratch. I mean,
really, yeah.
At that
Literally.
time, we were
Yeah.
not America.
Yeah. No.
No.
Right.
We're still in
So the
English
young people watch. If
colony.
you haven't have history, yeah, exactly. American history.
That's what made it so
right.
exciting.
Yeah.
I came across so many things,
Yeah.
And it was
It's hard
from-
to focus, isn't it? You want to.
Oh, and it's hard
There's so
to
much.
focus.
There's so
because,
much.
you know, this sort of happened. I might be studying 2 or 3 things at the same time, you know, because I'd find something and I'd be distracted. Oh, wow, I can use that for so-and-so, you know. So and the man who worked with me was very patient. He's a great guy.
And that was Chris Kirk.
He is a great
He helped
guy.
you do research and pull it
He
together.
really is. And he makes the most marvelous moats. Oh, my God, his notes are to die for. Oh.
So
His
another one
interviews
that
are
I
fantastic.
found interesting, and I'm probably not going to say this correctly, and I should, Ardna Clocken, which is also known as the Moen Estate.
Yes,
And
but that Moen was he was a son.
well, I would say Ardna Clocken, one of the reasons I was attracted to this one is that means village on the hill. It's Gaelic, though he named it
Scottish.
for his wife, who was Scottish. So actually it would be, the Scots call it Gaelic.
Yes.
It's Irish Gaelic, Scots Gaelic, but
Gaelic.
whatever, that's a technical.
Well, no, correction,
But,
okay. I stand corrected.
being of Scottish heritage, I particularly enjoyed that. He married her in Edinburgh. And again, I think lots of interesting little tidbits in here. He eventually sold it to the, Hutchins,
Yeah.
right? Who
Now-
bought the Crompton? He was of the Crompton loom work, so we all know that now
It was
as the Crompton
incredible.
collection.
The Cromptons,
Yeah.
they were all over the place.
Yep.
You know, and those stories are so fast. And I didn't know anything about anybody.
Yeah.
I'm a stranger here.
Yeah,
I don't know beans.
yeah,
And I become the historian.
yeah. Is that great? Yeah, but you know, it's an
That's
example.
called gall.
You have an interest, and you start studying about a building, and before you know it,
Well, honey,
there's so
a building
much
has people
history,
behind it.
right?
What is behind everything?
Yep.
People.
Yep.
You know?
Right.
And when you realize these kids were crossing the ocean where it took 5, 6, 7 weeks.
Yep. If
And
you live,
they came to
when
a
you got
country
here,
they
right.
knew nothing about. And it was the land of opportunity, which no other place had been for years. It was the land of opportunity. But unfortunately, with opportunity, you have abuses.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yes.
You
yes.
do.
But I
No
was
question.
pleased to read that, that many of these folks were philanthropical, and they had great wealth, but
they didn't start
did,
out with great wealth.
And that's sometimes
That's the
key.
key.
Yeah.
Everyone, we are a land of immigrants.
Yeah.
Everyone is here
Yep.
because we emigrated for a chance.
Important to remember,
And
right?
you know, that's being lost now. It's
Yeah.
been lost completely.
Yeah.
And the thing, one of the big things I have, frankly, against all this electronic jazz, is that it takes over. It controls. To me, to other people, it's so convenient. I can call my parents anytime. I write them, what have you. Yeah, but can you have a conversation with them? Are you opening up yourself to other people? And you're not.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Yep. Yep. It is. Like any technology, there's really
Yeah.
good and there's not so good. Yeah.
And one of the things, I was in New York City during the period where the women became very self-conscious about themselves. And they were joining groups and they were very much involved with talking to each other and so forth. But mostly, for the first, many women, right from the beginning of history, have been working together. To me, the real strength of a country is the males and females working together. Now we seem to be against working
We're in a
separate.
very strange period right now, aren't we? Right, where everybody's
we
fractured.
need each other.
Yeah. And there
Male
are
and
groups-
female is right.
Yeah,
We have one of each, and that's necessary.
yeah, yeah.
So why don't we appreciate each other?
yeah, I
You know,
think
I
we
have
do.
had male friends, I have female friends, and as far as I'm concerned, to every person, including every kid, is a person. And I think it's the fact that I was the kid in the family and wasn't quite treated as a person. Like they were too busy talking.
You understand.
And they wouldn't acknowledge me. And that's when I began really loving kids, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's not, I have something to say. They need to know this. And they weren't listening. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, when I grow up, I'm always going to listen to the kids, and I
Yep,
do try.
And you have. And you have.
A batch of them, the kids that I went to on
You
the
do
22nd.
some work at the middle school?
Were people who had come here.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to help us. They were going to work with we little
I think
old
that's
ladies and men. And I heard about it and I signed up for it, but not because I wanted to play a game or thing. I just wanted to be with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we had
Well-
people who wanted to play bingo. And so there were 12 of them who came to play bingo. And I had the other 8. They brought food. They were so
that's
wonderful.
great. What a great, that is great. Now, do they do that
Well,
regularly here?
there is a connection.
Mm-hmm.
One of the women who works here was actually Donald's, the owners, the builders, child.
Oh, okay.
And so her sister has a girl who's was in the 5th grade.
Oh, so that was the connection.
With the
Well, I think
connection.
it's awesome.
And that's how they
You should
brought
keep
him
it
in
up.
here.
It's a great connection. It's a great connection.
And I'm so grateful because, I realized I could not have written a book. I've done anything of the things I've done if I hadn't come to live here. My family wanted me to live in Providence, Rhode Island. Well, I hadn't lived in Providence, Rhode Island since I was 20-ish. And frankly, it's not my kind of city anymore. You know?
Yeah, things change, right?
I lived in New York City. I lived in Washington, Alexandria, Virginia, but it was actually Washington, D.C. where I worked. And I've traveled. It isn't that I'm better than anybody else. I'm just have had more experience.
You've had experience, yes. No, I understand that.
You know?
Yes. Yep.
And that's
yep.
all it is.
You've had the opportunity to.
And I made opportunities where I could. I knew to start out that I was not a stenographer type. I was okay at typing, but I had to work overtime from days and nights and weekends, because I wasn't good at machines.
Yeah.
So imagine me in this world. Disaster.
So now, now it's all about computers and machines. So I'm going to bring us back to the book again for people who.
I'm sorry.
No, don't please. It's fascinating. No, it's my job. I have to. Yeah. Well, that's good though, because I want to give people some insight into you, and your background, and you're a very interesting person. You've had a lot of great experiences, and I think it's part of why it reflects in the book. It reflects in the book, your love of all these things.
And I have another characteristic that's really funny. I have to write distinctly. I never have written more than a 1-page letter for business purposes.
Really? Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, that's good though. So you don't.
I'm even writing
that's a
to
skill.
President Trump. 1 page. Now it's a full page.
Yep.
But it's one
page. Yep. Yep. You'd be good preparing
And I
resumes
just
for
wrote
people.
him his 8th letter.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Well, good for
Well,
you.
I got a lot to say.
And you should. You're a good citizen.
I worked
That's
in
important for young people to
I've
know.
worked in practically every type of industry. Not all of them. The oldest I did not work in, but the others.
Yes.
I needed this. When I came here, I thought I'll go bananas. So what did I do? I started researching.
Yeah. Good for you. I want to mention one more. People will be very familiar with this one today, is the Hebert Candy Mansion.
Ah, yes.
But people some may not realize it wasn't built to sell candy.
No.
It was.
That was a kind of a sad story, because the man who built it actually built it from some of the items on the property.
Oh.
He was with homegrown property. And he had a dream, and he met a woman in Rhode Island and fell in love. The dream left him.
So did he build the mansion for her?
No.
Oh.
No, he met her after the fact.
Oh.
And I went back to Rhode Island. Went to Rhode Island. And it was kind of sad, because his life was not a very happy one.
Oh, that is sad. So again, not all stories are
Not
are
all
good,
stories are
but they're
But I
still
think one of
interesting.
the books, one person who really fascinated me
Yeah.
was the kid who came in, teenagers who came in from Germany.
That would be Whittle
Yeah, it's an interesting story.
or England. He came in from England, but I do recall something about
It's the one, yeah.
Germany.
This was the one, the woman
You talk and I'll find it.
Whose mother married a millionaire.
Yep.
And I knew two people here. I met two people here who had actually known her.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Well, that is true because you do, you know, some of the family history that you have in here carries through to today.
Yeah.
And they're names that you recognize.
Yeah. And some, I had an opportunity to talk with a lot of people in the later years. And so I was always over at visiting at the Hobbs people because there were all these three buildings. And they're wonderful stories.
Oh, great. And I'm sure they love that you've captured this.
And I knew them, and we interviewed them.
Mansions of Magnates. If people want to get a copy of your book,
Call me.
call you. So you got. I'm sure
Apparently, they're no
Shrewsbury
longer
Media
available from the
from the library. Well, maybe we can
No,
get
I
some
know
over
they-
there,
And they could call me at home.
and that would be great because
Yeah.
you're a fascinating person. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion with Lyn Lincourt.
And they can
Look
call-
for the book.
Yeah.
And I think you'll learn a lot. Again, if you like history, if you like genealogy, if you just like a good read, pick it up. So thank you.
Yeah.
This has been great.
I have.
Appreciate you spending the time. Thank you.